Okay, everyone says that money can't buy you happiness, but in this video I'm going to explain that you can definitely earn it, and explain how if you invest your money and time smartly, you can set up your life in a way that makes it fulfilling, interesting and fun. I'm also going to explain why getting food poisoning and falling off this cliff was one of the best things that's ever happened to me, and explain why this was one of the high points of my life. Stick with it. Okay, so firstly, it's pretty well established that spending money on experiences is better than spending money on things. At least one 20-year study found that spending money on things like travel, concerts and other events leads to greater happiness in the long term than just accumulating a big pile of stuff. But when you dig a bit deeper into the science, you find that there are two more levels of life satisfaction above just having experiences, and if you prioritize them, then it leads to greater happiness overall. Before we get into that though, it does help to understand just exactly why experiences are so much better than stuff. So here's the 2-minute version. Firstly, the utility of buying anything really starts before you buy it. You look forward to both possessions and experiences, but the wait for experiences is more fun. Waiting for possessions tends to make you feel impatient, but waiting for a delicious meal or a sunny vacation lets you plan ahead and anticipate it. And it definitely trumps impulse buying, where that anticipation phase is completely squandered. You're also less likely to compare your own experiences to other people. If you buy a new phone or a new watch or a new car, it's very tempting to compare that to what you could have done if you'd spent a little bit more money or to what other people have got. But you don't really do that with holidays. You can take an experience like eating street food or sleeping in a capsule hotel and find more meaning and value in it than you would in like staying in a 5-star place or eating at a 3-star restaurant. Thirdly, we tend to stop appreciating things we're constantly exposed to. Phones, watches and clothes all become part of the background over time, but that doesn't really happen with experiences because they're so fleeting. And the crazy thing is, even bad experiences make for good stories. So a few years ago, I went on holiday to Thailand with my wife. And we booked this tour where you would go out on a boat and you would climb up these cliffs, and then the idea was that the cliffs were overhanging from the water, so it didn't matter if you fell in, because you would just fall in the water. It was like free soloing over water. Brilliant idea. And then the night before we were due to go out on the boat, we both got horrible food poisoning. We were being ill all night. And I was still being pretty ferociously sick when it was time to get on the boat. But I was like, well, we've already paid for this trip. Let's just do it. And it was kind of fun. We went out, I puked on the boat, we got a bunch of climbing in, I puked a little bit on the way back, and then the boat broke down, and then it started raining. And so for about half an hour, we were both lying in the bottom of this open-topped boat, shivering, waiting in the choppy seas for another boat to pick us up. And objectively speaking, that experience was terrible at the time. But looking back, it's become one of the stories that we tell most often about our holidays, and we look back on it kind of fondly. So that's why experiences beat stuff. But what about the next level? Well, that's still a form of experience, but it's a more targeted one. And specifically, I'm talking about learning new things. And okay, this might sound slightly counterintuitive. After all, it does feel like it should be more fun to be like waited on at a restaurant or lie on a beach than be scratching your head trying to get to grips with something you haven't quite learned yet. But learning is great for your overall happiness. More than one study shows that when people participate in classes outside of their regular work hours, they report greater levels of life satisfaction overall. And sure, some of that might come from the effect of learning alongside other people and being sociable, but other studies show that feelings of competence and autonomy lead to greater life satisfaction. Basically, feeling like we're good at stuff makes us feel good. And that probably tallies with your experience. Being a beginner doesn't always feel great, but starting to pick something up feels pretty good. And learning new skills has tons of other benefits. It makes you more adaptable, it makes you a more interesting person to be around, and there's even evidence to suggest that it can change the structure of your brain in very positive ways. According to several larger scale studies, lifelong learners tend to be happier than other people, and that isn't that surprising. Apart from the skills it directly teaches you, learning can strengthen your own belief in yourself and your ability to deal with disadvantageous situations. And so level 3 is to spend at least some of your time and money on going to classes, learning new skills, reading books and other lifelong learning endeavors. But what's level 4? Level 4 is peak experiences. So learning new things is always cool. I've done 1 or 2 day courses where I've learned everything from bread making to scuba diving, and I'm always dabbling in picking up new little mini skills in my free time. But in order to really unlock the power and satisfaction of learning, you have to deeply invest in 1 or 2 areas. I've talked in another video about flow states, a phenomenon identified by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi as a state of concentration that leads to a feeling of spontaneity, or that vibe where you're performing at something at a very high level but you're barely even having to think about it. And Csikszentmihalyi identifies 8 different characteristics of flow, including complete concentration on the task at hand, a sense that the experience is intrinsically rewarding, a loss of self-conscious rumination, and a feeling of control over the task. And a lot of research suggests that it's high performers who experience the most flow. The more you practice a skill and the better you get at it, the more likely you are to have these experiences where you're just happy in the moment, performing at your absolute best. And there might even be one more level to this. Abraham Maslow, who's well known for identifying a hierarchy of needs that goes from food and shelter at the bottom to the respect of others and meaning at the top, suggests that right at the top of that pyramid come peak experiences, which are just these moments of pure joy and elation. And they're supposedly pretty rare, but they're all related to self-actualization or becoming the best person you can be. And so trying to become that kind of person is probably the best way to chase them. And honestly, I do think my own life bears this out. Obviously, the best experiences I've had in my life are all to do with my family, but a pretty close second are the experiences I've had related to skills that I've put a lot of time into mastering. Whether that's finally being good enough at the piano to play it in public, or getting my black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, when this happened. So if you're looking to maximize your chances of a happy, fulfilled life, I recommend becoming a lifelong learner, and crucially, deep diving into 1 or 2 skills that you find particularly meaningful. To learn more about how to do that, please check out this video, and if you decide to do Jiu-Jitsu, please do remember that you might one day look back on getting wrecked by a Commonwealth Games competitor as one of the best experiences of your life. Thanks for watching.